I hope that you have a cup of coffee or tea or whatever it is that you drink, because we are doing a special video that is going up the night before Thanksgiving. So in case if you are tired or just want to relax tomorrow after you eat so much, you can see my progression on my end of the year TBR. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today I just wanted to do kind of a special video where I'm not wrapping up books that I've read, I'm not talking about book hauls, I'm actually making myself accountable to my end of the year TBR that I had made a video of a while back, which I will link up in the description and below and also in the cards above. So if you want to check that video out, you can. I noticed that I have started reading books that are not on my physical TBR for the end of the year, and I need to hold myself accountable, and I need to go back through and see what I have read, what I have not read, so then I can kind of see how much of a dent I've made. So before I get into this video, make sure that you like and subscribe. Check my description box below for all of my links to my Instagram and my Goodreads if you'd like to follow me, my Patreon, and then also my Pango Books account. So I will be going through all of the books in order that I had posted them in that video. So if you have already watched that video, then you know kind of the order on it. But there's just going to be a slight variation. I'm going to go over all of my manga first before I get into all of the books, so we can see how many I have read and how many I still need to read by the end of the year. Like I had said in that video, there is a very slim chance that I am going to actually get through this entire TBR, but it was just fun for me to pull books off of my shelf and make a TBR to where I could mood read and just grab what I wanted instead of looking at my shelves and kind of being overwhelmed in a sense. And also a lot of these books, aside from the new releases, are ones that have been on my shelves for quite a while, and I'm just wanting to get that cleared up because I brought in a lot of new books that I want to make room for. So I think, maybe once or twice a year, I'll just stack my cart full of books that have been on my shelves for a while and just, tackle those first. So let's get into the books and see how well I've been doing, or if I've been doing good at all. I can say that I have not read any of my manga. Now, I am planning on making a video maybe after my busy time is over, where during the week I just read all of my manga and get caught up on what I currently own, so then I can buy the new books that are in the series that I don't own yet that are already published. So then I'm not buying like 20 manga books in a series, because I know a lot of these only have like maybe 4, 5, or 6 books in them, so I don't want them to get too big. So let's kind of start with those. So I do have A Galaxy Next Door. This is the only one that I own in this series. Again, I don't remember really what it's about. I just know that I was intrigued with it. I found a used copy on Pango Books, and I was just like, for just $6, I think that I'll give this manga a shot. And then the next two that I have is books 2 and 3 in the game Between the Suits, which I've already read volume 1 in this manga series, and it is following, our female main character who is kind of a workaholic, and a new guy starts working at her business, and they decide to have this game where, they'll work, but then afterwards, they'll kind of hook up. relieves some stress, and then if one of them finds love, then of course the game is over. So been really intrigued. I want to get back into this series. I absolutely love it, and I think there's only 4 or 5 volumes currently published. So if I can get through these 2, then maybe I can pick up the last 1 or 2 that are currently published and just be caught up with that. The next one, I only own the first book in, which of course this was just an impulse buy because of the cover, and that is My Gently Raised Beast. This is kind of, even though it is a manga, would it be considered a comic? Because it's not in the traditional manga format where you're reading from the back. It's just a standard comic where, you read like you normally would. So I don't know. I mean, it says manga on here, but would it technically be a comic? I'm not sure. Someone let me know below. And then the next 3 are volumes 1, 2, and 3 in My Happy Marriage. I have not started this series. I know that I want to get through what are currently published because they do have the series on Netflix and I want to watch that. But I'm the type of person that I want to read the books first before I dive into those because everybody knows that the books are better. And if I really enjoy the mangas, then if I don't like the TV show, it's not going to ruin it for me. Where I feel like if I watch the TV show now and maybe I'm not really enjoying it, then I wouldn't want to pick up the manga. So that's kind of my whole take on everything. I know everyone is different, but that's what I plan on doing. Hopefully I get to these all soon. And then the last manga that I have, I don't even know why I picked it up. I saw, of course, Becca in the books reading this, and she said that she enjoyed it. I know that it wasn't one of her favorites, but she had a good time, and that is Dick Fight Island. And again, I don't think I need to explain what this book is about because the name says it all, but I haven't gotten to it yet at all, so I feel kind of sad that all of my manga have not been read yet. I figured those would be the first ones off of my TBR shelf, considering that usually it only takes me a couple hours to read through one manga, and if I really sat down on a Saturday, I could probably breeze through all of these, but I just didn't want to rush through them, I guess, and I've been kind of waiting for that time whenever I'm just so busy and so exhausted that I've just decided to sit around and read my manga for the day instead of do anything else, but here pretty soon, I'm sure that's going to be coming. So let's talk about the books that I have read on my TBR shelf. So of course, the first one that was in that video was A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. I have already read this. I'm not going to recap my thoughts on the books or anything. You can definitely go watch my video whenever I made my TBR if you'd like to hear what the book is about, or watch my weekly wrap-up vlogs if you want to hear my thoughts on it. But this is the UK cover because I pre-ordered that because I think it's absolutely stunning. And of course it has the hidden cover underneath. But I was so happy I have read this one, so it gets to go into my read pile. And after we get done with, going through all of the books of what I've read and what I haven't read, we can just tally it up and see how many I've read opposed to how many I haven't read. So we'll just go from there. The next book that I had on my TBR shelf was Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. I do not own a physical copy of this book because the only thing I am going to say was I'm not a fan of this book. I was very disappointed with it for a lot of reasons. Like I said, go watch my weekly wrap-up on that. But I did read Swordcatcher, which was another new release that I did have on my end of the year TBR. So I'm happy that one is kind of done with. The next one that was on my video was Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. I have read this one. So happy that I did. The day that it came out, I had downloaded it on audio because I didn't have any of the physical books at the time. Downloaded it on audio, flew through it. I have some mixed feelings on it. While I loved it, it wasn't overwhelming, like the first book was. So I don't know what's kind of happening with the story and why everything feels kind of convoluted and it's just all over the place, and the storylines didn't really progress the way that they probably should have. I feel like it was a whole mixed bag of crazy. So definitely go watch a wrap-up video on that, but I am happy to put this in my already read pile. The next book that is on that list is Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. Unfortunately, I have not gotten to this book yet, which I thought I would have when it released, but it came out like after A Curse for True Love, and I think even around the same time as Iron Flame, and there was just so many books coming out all at once. So I haven't gotten to this yet, but I do expect me to get to this very soon. And I've been seeing so many positive reviews all over the internet, so I can't wait to dive into this book and see if I like it and if Ali Hazelwood continues to be one of my favorite authors. The next book that we have is Do Your Worst by Rosie Danan. I actually just got this physical copy, I want to say a few days ago, in the mail. So it's a very recent release, and I haven't gotten it yet, but I think it's kind of like a rom-com with, I don't know, is he a vampire hunter? I don't even know. Something with the supernatural. I can't wait to get to this. This will be my first time reading anything by Rosie Danan, so I don't know how her writing style is or anything, but I am kind of excited to get to this because it gives the spooky vibes, but also the rom-com vibes, and it's just going to be one of those palette cleansers that I desperately need sometimes. The next book that is on my list is Being Henry by Henry Winkler. This is Henry Winkler's memoir, biography, however you want to say it. And I have read this one. I actually downloaded it the day that it released and flew through it as well. It was such a delight, and I am so happy that I got to read this and learn more about Henry Winkler's life outside of him being the Fonz. And whenever I finally got my copy in the mail, I didn't realize that on the back you have a picture of the Fonz. So, I watched him in the reruns of Happy Days. I absolutely love Henry Winkler, and after listening to his memoir and him narrate his own book with his wife, just makes me love him even more. He is a wholesome, humble guy that I think is a very fresh take in Hollywood, because everybody there acts wild sometimes, and it's nice to know that there are normal, wholesome, human beings that are actually in the movie industry. The next one that I finally actually read was Blood Union Part 1 by Vila Roth. I actually just recently finished this last week, and I love this series. You guys hear me rave about it all the time, so I'm not going to rave about it on here. But, of course, book 5 in the Blood Grace series, and I can't wait to continue with Blood Union Part 2, and then wrap up the currently published books with Blood Gift, which will be the 7th and final book that is currently out at the moment. Next on that list is another one that I have finished. We're kind of on a roll here, but I feel like we're about to get into a lull of books I didn't finish, but that is Savage Lands by Stacey Marie Brown, and I have also read the second book, which is Wild Lands, which I did have on my TBR because this is the Alpha Ho Book Club's pick, and this was October's read. Wild Lands is November's read, and then Deadlands is December. So I haven't got to Deadlands yet, but I have gotten the first 2 books done. So I'm happy that I have been staying up with the book club picks this time, and that's exciting. I can't wait to get into the 3rd book next month. The next one on my list was A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime by Monica Murphy. I have not read this because I do believe this is book 2 in the Lancaster Prep series, I believe. So I need to read book 1 before I can get to this one. Maybe I should look up on Goodreads, the order of the books before I start putting things on my TBR. So I feel like this one's going to sit here for a hot minute. And next up, we have Blood Orange by Karina Halley. This is the bookish box version of the book, so this isn't the actual cover. Haven't read this one yet, and the more and more I think about it, the more and more I don't know if I'm actually going to read it, and I'm just going to unhaul. I'm going to let, kind of sit and stew on my thoughts from what I've heard from some of my friends who have read it and see if I am going to give it a try or if I'm just going to unhaul. But right now, it is still on my unread TBR. And then we have Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. Again, this is the Fairy Loot edition, I believe, and I haven't read this one either. So we're starting to get into the trend of books that I haven't read, but I am very anxious to get into this because I love Chloe Gong's writing and I love her world building and her characters. So I can't wait to get into this one and see what she does with like a whole fresh new set of characters and world and everything outside of these violent delights and our violent ends, and also the Secret Shanghai duet, I believe is what the other one is called. So pretty excited. Can't wait to get to this one either. And another one that I haven't finished is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. This is the Fairy Loot edition. And again, just like Blood Orange, this might be one of those books that I potentially just unhaul because I have heard that Belladonna is great. But the second book in the series, Foxglove, I don't think a lot of people have really enjoyed it. They said that it kind of deviated from what the original book had set up. So I'm just going to think on it, see what I think. Maybe I'll give it a shot. But if book 2 isn't really standing up to the standards of book 1, I don't know if I want to put myself through that and start another series and then not want to continue. So I don't know. This might end up being unhauled. We'll see. And then we have God Killer by Hannah Kaner. So again, another book that I haven't read. This is a gorgeous Illumicrate edition, but I have heard really good things about this, and I do believe that they announced their special edition of the second book, I believe, that's going to be coming out. So I need to get to this one to see if I want to get the second book in, their special edition to match this one. So we're going to try to prioritize it and see if I can get through it in the next couple weeks. And then we have another rom-com, which is My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenny Levine. I, again, have been seeing so many amazing things being said about this book, so I really can't wait to dive into it and see kind of what's going on with it, why everyone is loving it, and kind of get my thoughts on that. But this is one that I am pretty excited to get to. Okay, so finally breaking up the books that I haven't read, I did read The Stranger Upstairs by Lisa M. Matlin, which was one of my first books in October, I believe, that I ended up reading, which this is like a thriller, horror, suspense type of book. And you can go listen to my thoughts on it. It was okay. I enjoyed it. The very ending did give me a twist that I didn't expect. So pretty happy that I got this off my shelf, and I'm actually pretty proud of myself for reading a horror that actually kind of scared me to the point where I would have to put the book down and beg my husband to sit in the room with me while I read. And before I keep going, if you do hear my husband in the background yelling, he is in the other room playing his Xbox with our friends, and I tried to tell him not to yell, but I think he's going to be coming through a little bit, so I apologize. But the next book that I have not read, we're kind of back on that trend again, is Blackbird of the Gallows by Meg Castle. This one I didn't even know what it was about whenever I got it. It was just a straight cover buy, and it's not very long at all, so I think that I can get through this pretty quickly before the end of the year. If not, I'll just roll it over for January and we'll see where we go. But this cover is so beautiful that I actually can't wait to get to the book. And then, of course, I wanted to do my rereads of Haunting Adeline and Hunting Adeline because, of course, during October, November, December, and even into January, I do like to do kind of my spooky or gothic or darker type of books. So I wanted to give these a reread and everything, especially since I read them and then I met her at Authors in the Bluegrass and I have these signed by her. I want to read them again because I'm in her Facebook group with all of her fans and such, and everybody's been doing a reread, so it kind of sparked me to kind of dive back in and, revisit this world and kind of get all the feels again. This is a very, very dark romance. So if you are not a dark romance girly, don't even look at this set because it's dark, it's gruesome, it has a lot of trigger warnings. So I always tell everyone, proceed with caution before you pick up anything that H.D. Carlton writes. And then the next one I have read, and that is my reread of From Salt to Sky by Adrienne Lee. This isn't a very long book. It's barely over 200 pages. It's such a wonderful read, a very cozy, fantastical, historical fantasy type thing that deals with the Fae, it deals with time travel, it deals with other worlds and other realms. So if any of that intrigues you, especially with like Celtic mythology, then you definitely want to pick this up. It was wonderful. I adored it. I'm really happy that I did my reread because even though I love it and everything, I think that I'm going to pass it on to one of my friends who wants to read it because I've had my time with this book, but after this reread that I did, I really don't feel like I'm going to revisit it. Not that I don't love this world, but after reading it a second time and getting, things out of it that I didn't get the first time, I feel like this book needs to be loved and cherished by other people. So I'm going to be giving my signed copy over to one of my friends. They're very excited for it. And I do suggest that if anybody likes those cozy historical fantasies with like Celtic mythology, other realms, dimensions type of aspect, definitely give this a try. It's so good. And then the next book I have not read yet, which is Slaying the Vampire Conqueror by Carissa Broadbent. I haven't even thought about this book yet because I know that I need to read this before the next duet comes out in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. But I am desperate to finish the other two books in the War of Lost Hearts trilogy. So I'm kind of wondering if I'm going to take this off of my TBR and maybe put, what's the second book called? Children of Fallen Gods on instead and try to get through that trilogy before I read this book because I want to be a little fresh in my mind of that world of the Crowns of Nyaxia because this book I think is kind of a segue into the Bloodborne, I believe, realm. I think it's Bloodborne. And so, I kind of just want to be fresh with that before I dive into the next book in the next duet. The next book I am actually in the middle of reading at the moment, so I only have the dust jacket, but that is Of Shadow and Moonlight by Luna Laurier. I'm halfway through, and I'll give you guys a little spoiler on my thoughts. I did not think that I was going to like this book. I thought that I was going to pick it up, I was going to read it, and then I was going to end up DNFing it because I had never heard of this book. I had never heard anyone talking about it. So I was like, is this even going to be a good book? I think it even has like a 3.5 or a 3.6 rating on Goodreads, which isn't that good. So, I mean, it is good, but it's not good for a book that I just got this year. So I was like, I'll just give it a try. I'm halfway through and I'm obsessed with this. So definitely watch my reading wrap up later this week to hear all of my thoughts on this book because it is so good. All right, the next book that we have is Mortal Remains by Marianne Fraser. I haven't even read this book yet, but I'm desperate to get to it. This book was just a cover buy off of Book Outlet. I can't wait to get to it. My copy is a little ripped. I don't quite know what happened, but that's okay. So I'm hoping to get to this one soon as well. Like all of the other ones, I just don't know which ones to prioritize at the moment, but I have a feeling that I'll be getting to this one very quickly as well. And then, of course, I have not done my reread of A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness because I want to get to the other two books. I think it's called Shadow of Night and Book of Life, I believe. I had read this one a long time ago. This is the UK covers of the paperbacks that I've gotten, but I wanted to do a reread, get kind of fresh so I could dive into book 2 again, because I really don't remember much about this world. It's been so long since I've read it, and even longer since I actually watched the first season of the TV show. So I need to get a little bit fresh before I dive into book 2 so I can have the full experience of reading it. And then we have My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. This one I've been a little hesitant and reluctant to read because I'm a little scared because it is like a horror, but I've heard that it's like 80s horror, which I can do. So I really want to read this one. I just know that it's going to be one of those, it's going to be one of the last ones that I get to, only because I'm terrified. I'm just so terrified. So we'll see how long it takes me to get to it. And then I did finish The Skeleton King by Charity B. This, I found out, was a Nightmare Before Christmas retelling, but with, people in a town, and it was very gross, very dark. Check trigger warnings. I think there's like a full page of trigger warnings. Also, please know that there is necrophilia in here, and I did not know that. And no matter how much I tell you that I'm a dark romance girly, necrophilia is where I cut it. Honestly, it's where I cut it. So if you want to know my thoughts, go watch my wrap-up video. I think it was like the first or second week in October. If you want to know what this is about, because it was dark. And I don't know how we got to this. I don't know how Nightmare Before Christmas became this. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts below if you've read this. And again, another book that I haven't gotten to yet, The Darkening by Sunya Mara. Like I said in my video before, I haven't been drawn to this. I haven't been drawn to read this at all the whole time I've had it. It is a fairy loot edition. I just looked. However, the next book that I'm going to talk about has taught me something that I need to give BookBox books a chance, because I found a gem that I had been avoiding for over a year since I had gotten it, and everybody talking about it recently had kind of sparked my interest to just see what it was about, and actually it was up there, a very high 4-star. I absolutely loved it. So maybe I shouldn't throw shade at The Darkening. I should give it a shot, see what I think. I may end up loving it. I may end up hating it. We shall see. But now I really need to give all of my BookBox books a chance. And the book that I was talking about was One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This is the Fairy Loot edition. And again, I avoided this book for over a year. I was like, there's no way I'm going to like that. I think it's like a historical fantasy. It deals with tarot card magic. Nothing about it sounded appealing. Nothing. And then I ended up reading this in October. I think right around the same time that Two Twisted Crowns came out. And I immediately, as soon as I finished this, I dove right into Two Twisted Crowns. I was like, I can't wait anymore. I need to know how this story wraps up. I need to know what happens to all my characters. So I sat on this gem for over a year whenever I could have been talking about how amazing it is for a year. It's just wild. So definitely got this off my TBR. I'm very happy that I did, and I'm also happy that I finished the duology, because I finished Two Twisted Crowns as well in October, and I started it and stopped a series in 1 month. I could not believe that. All right, so we are down to the last few books. Pretty excited for that. So I still have Love in the Time of Serial Killers by Alicia Thompson to read, and I am really intrigued about this because I just watched another booktuber talk about this book, and they raved about how great it was. So it kind of reinvigorated my feelings on reading it, which I know that it's like, kind of a spookier aspect of a romance, but should I keep this for closer to Valentine's Day, or should I just go ahead and read it? I don't know. So I still have this to read, and I'm pretty excited to get to it. Again, this dreaded book that I have no idea where it came from. And, you know, I even talked about that in my video when I was making my TBR. I was going through my shelves and I was like, what book are you? And then I even went to my catalog because I keep an inventory of all the books that I own. So then whenever I'm out and about, I don't buy the same book, which it hasn't deterred it, but it's definitely made it better that I don't do that. But The Fallen by Thomas Nagowski. I have never heard of this book, nor do I know where it came from. And it's a used book, so I know that I didn't pick it up at a, Books A Million. So I'm not sure where this came from or how I got it, but now I'm like, I just need to get it off of my shelves, and I still haven't read it. Now, I have finished, which I've already talked about that. I finished Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent, which is book 1 in the War of Lost Hearts trilogy. What was I trying to say right there? I have no idea. But I did read book 1. I do want to get into book 2, which is Children of Fallen Gods. And I can't wait to see where our story takes us and stuff, because it left off on a pretty big cliffhanger. And I can't really wait to get back into that world. So I'm trying to power through my TBR so I can get back into that world. And then I do have The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. Again, I just bought this straight off of Cover Vibes. I don't know much about it, but I haven't read it yet. It is a chunker. It is almost 600 pages. So it's a pretty big book, and it's the book that wouldn't burn. So I'm pretty sure that, it would burn if I tried to burn it, but there's a significance with that because it's about a library and about the greatest stories can reach the stars. So I'm really excited. I have never really read a book that, seems like this, and I'm really excited to kind of dive into it and see what it's about. And I do believe this is a series. I do think it is a series, but I couldn't tell you what Book 1 of the library trilogy. So are we just talking about libraries? Are books talking to each other? I'm very curious on what's going on. And then we have Smoking Key by Kelsey Sutton. So I, again, bought this off the bargain shelf whenever I bought one of my other books, and I haven't gotten to it. I know nothing about it. I just know who Kelsey Sutton is, and I really want to read this work, and we'll just kind of see where it goes, but I haven't really been drawn to it at all, so I don't know if possibly this might be another unhaul that I do without even giving it a chance, but we shall see whenever the time comes, whenever I get down to the last few of my TBR, how I feel about it then. The second to last book that I actually have read is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. This book shattered me, broke me in a million pieces, glued me back together, and made me whole. I loved it. I loved everything about this book. I loved the characters. I loved the story. I loved the romance. Like, it was just pure perfection for me on contemporary romance. And so I've been desperately asking all of you Christina Lauren fans, give me more recommendations of their backlist that would give me the same feelings and the same vibes, because I devoured this book and I am still thinking about it to this day. And the very last book that we have on that TBR list is a book that I haven't read, and that is Henry VIII, The Heart and the Crown by Alison Weir. This was a Waterstones exclusive, and it is signed by Alison Weir. So I'm pretty excited. I can't wait to get to it. I love Tudors. I've talked about it a couple times. I love, the Tudor time period, the Renaissance period, anything that deals with like 1400s to 1600s England. There's just so much history there, and so much history that shaped how our world is today. So very excited to get to this. I mean, I don't know what more I could read about Henry VIII that I don't already know, but I'm pretty excited to see how Alison Weir has her take on Henry VIII and his reign and what he accomplished within that reign. Okay, so just to kind of tally up, I have 36 books that are on my physical TBR right now. That is not including the mangas. And out of those 36 books, I have read 14 of them, which I feel since October 1st, with this being November 22nd, I feel like that is pretty good, especially since I have been reading a couple books that are not on this TBR. 14 books in a month and a half, I think, is wonderful. Now, granted, that means that I still have 22 books left to read before January 1st, and I really don't think that's going to happen. I'm just being a realist, but I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to see how many I can get through before the end of the year. Maybe I can make it to 30 at least and only have 6 remaining. That would be wonderful because I would feel very accomplished with that, with the goal that I had set out for myself. And we will just see how that goes because I know my busy time is going to be wrapping up in the next couple of weeks. So that means that I'll have a little bit more time to read or listen to my audiobooks whenever I get back into the swing of my normal life at work. And maybe I'll get through more books than I think I will. But I am going to set my goal to be finishing up all the mangas because I didn't include those in my numbers, and getting to 30 of the 36 books read off of my physical TBR. That is my personal goal. I think I can get all the mangas and 16 books read, considering that I am currently reading one of those books, and I'm almost done with it. So I think that I can get I think I can get 16 by January 1st. We'll see how that goes. But I hope everyone loved this very special video that I didn't even plan on making, but my pumpkin pies are cooling. I don't have any cleaning to do. I'm off for 4 days, and I thought, why don't I just give you a little bonus video, something that you can watch whenever you are baking your food, eating, or even if you are done eating and you're just lounging around your place because you've ate so much turkey and you're about to be in a coma. You can just put something on that's very light and easy to watch, and maybe you'll enjoy it. So I hope everyone has a very happy Thanksgiving, and make sure that you leave me some comments below on, do you think I'll make it to 30 books? Do you think I'll get through all of my manga and reach the 30 books? How many books do you think that I am going to make on my TBR? If you're still watching this video, let me know below. I've already read 14 of the 36. How many more do you think I'm going to get to? Leave me the number below because I'm very curious. But I will leave you guys here. I will see you in a few days whenever I do my weekly wrap up. And I hope you all have a great holiday and be safe out there whenever you are going to be doing Black Friday shopping, if you are going out to do that, because things can get wild. So just make sure that you are safe when you do it. And I will see you guys in a few days. Bye!